Okay, hello, year 5. So, chapter 26 The Cave of Sleep and Death. So, let me get this straight, said Thanatos, arching his long, thin fingers beneath his chin as he stretched out his throne of bones. You have failed to kill the child. You have failed to fight a woman in her 90s, and you failed to bring me my Earthstone. And I've lost my beautiful trumpet, sulked Hypnos, as he reclined on the sumptuous fur-lined bed in the Cave of Sleep and Death. His shrill voice echoed around the dark, barren chambers of the cave. Outside, the river Leith murmured and the poppies at the cave's mouth rustled. But looking around this place, you failed to understand the basics of the interior decor. Would a little wallpaper be too much to ask? My patience wears thin, roared Thanatos, leaping from his throne and flinging aside the black, wispy drapes surrounding his brother's bed. If I thought for 1 minute you were double-crossing me, where's the fun in that? Smiled Hypnos, his brother's fury immediately cheering up. It's all under control, trust me. You're far too suspicious. I wonder why, said Thanatos, pinning his twin against the wall and grabbing his cardia. I'm warning you, brother. Betray me again, and I... Can't kill me, grinned Hanos. You swore an oath. Which I will uphold as I tear you apart, piece by piece, leaving it to your loud mouth to tell me where my Chaos Stones are. Perhaps I should start now to remind you where your loyalties lie. Thanatos, said a new voice outside the cave, cutting through the air like a moonbeam. Thanatos spun around. Who's there? He shouted. Too slow, taunted Hypnos, taking advantage of his brother's distraction to free himself from the grip. Get back here, snarled Thanatos. I'm not done with you. Well, maybe I'm done with you, trilled Hypnos. You're not the boss of me, and you're no fun anymore. See ya! And the demon of sleep unfurled his wings and whizzed out of the cave with a whoop, shaking the sea of poppies that wafted at the cave's entrance. Who is it? Thanatos demanded again. Reveal yourself. The intruder stepped into the cave. Well, well, well. How did you find me? Smiled Thanatos. Charon, said Elliot, walking into the darkness. It's amazing what he'll do with 3 bottle tops and a pen lid. You'll have to excuse me. I rarely entertain mortals, said Thanatos, pulling up a chair for Elliot. Not live ones, anyway. The underworld doesn't seem to agree with them. To what do I owe the pleasure? Elliot wiped his puffy eyes. This was his only hope, the only way to keep Mum safe. He'd told himself that all the way here, he'd placed the Earthstone on the table between them. Thanatos' eyes flickered with desire. I thought you'd be interested in this, said Elliot, trying to keep the fear from his voice. He couldn't quite believe what he was about to do. It was so risky, but he had no choice. He had to do it for Mum. She couldn't carry on like this, and neither could he. You have gone to great lengths to get the Earthstone before me, and now you're simply going to hand it over, said Thanatos with a raised eyebrow. I need something in return, said Elliot. Something only you can do. Your mother, Thanatos smiled knowingly. You want me to cure your mother. You said at Stonehenge you can do things the gods cannot, said Elliot. Was that true? Like you wouldn't believe, said Thanatos. Why do you think Zeus is so afraid of me? Because he knows I'm more powerful than him. And you could be too. What do you mean? Asked Elliot. Hasn't he told you? Said Thanatos. Told me what? Said Elliot. How interesting. Thanatos leant back in his bone throne. But tell me, since you've stolen the Earthstone, why not keep it for yourself? You could be a very rich young man, never work a day. You could afford the best doctors mortal money can buy. She doesn't need a doctor, said Elliot. She needs herself. Can you give her that back? Thanatos stared deep into Elliot's eyes. If you gave me that, he said at last, gesturing to the Earthstone, and its 3 companions. Elliot turned the diamond over his hand. It was a high price. What would this mean for the world? But Mum was his world. He needed her back. Swear it, said Elliot. I swear on the Sphinx, said Thanatos solemnly. Bring me my Chaos Stones and I'll give you your mother back. Then it's a deal, said Elliot quietly, his stomach in knots. Thanatos poured 2 glasses of water from a black stone jug on the table. Let us drink a toast, he said. Here's to fresh time. Time to forget the past. Elliot hesitated as he looked down at his water. It was so clear. It was as if there was nothing there at all. But life was teaching him to be suspicious. It's not poisoned, laughed Thanatos, draining his glass in a single gulp. I swear on the Sphinx, take it or leave it. Elliot looked thirstily at the water. The oppressive air of the cave was making him sleepy. A cool drink was just what he needed. And if it wasn't deadly... He drank. I need to go, he said, putting the Earthstone back in his pocket and standing up shakily. He held the table for balance. Everything was swimming. Everyone would be wondering where I am. He walked unsteadily to the cave's entrance. Elliot, said Thanatos, settling back onto his throne. Aren't we forgetting something? My Earthstone? You'll get it with the rest, said Elliot, suddenly afraid at the thought of losing the diamond. I need it. I need to buy a new house. You'll get it soon enough. Elliot teetered toward the exit. At a click of Thanatos' fingers, the poppies at the cave's mouth suddenly grew taller and thicker, tangling over the entrance to form a thick wall, blocking Elliot's only way out. Oh, I think I'll have it now, said Thanatos, rising from the throne and walking slowly towards him. Elliot felt the dark fear rising through him. He stamped it down. He was in control here. No, he said, as firmly as he was able. Then I'll just have to take it, said Thanatos. Elliot flinched as Thanatos lunged towards him, but as soon as he got close to Elliot's body, the demon was knocked away by the same invisible force as beneath Stonehenge. You can't touch me, Elliot realised aloud. So it seems, drawled Thanatos. It would appear we are at a stalemate. Elliot waited for the cave entrance to open. It didn't. His head started to feel strangely fuzzy, and another yawn escaped his lips. I fear that you and I got off on the wrong foot, young Elliot, said Thanatos, returning to his throne. I'm sure that your friends have told you all manner of lies, but I assure you my motives are entirely honourable. His words swarmed in Elliot's head. It was difficult to concentrate through the tiredness. His eyes wandered around the cave up to the roof, covered in enormous stalactites. They were the ones that hung from the ceiling. Mum had taught him that. Honourable, said Elliot. You want to kill mortals? Not all of them, said Thanatos. I intend to keep some. The place will need looking after. Besides, no point in ruling the world if no one's there. Look at your realm, Elliot. The earth is overrun. Millions of mortals without homes, not enough food, no clean water, sanitation, education. All I want to do is balance the books. By murdering? Asked Elliot, unable to stifle a yawn. Murder is premeditated and deliberate, said Thanatos. I would use the Chaos Stones for more of a cult. A necessary evil to control the species. It isn't personal. After all, what is more impartial than death? An earthquake can't see the colour of your skin. A tsunami doesn't know your religion. A hurricane doesn't care about your money. Which makes me about the fairest individual you ever meet. It's for your own good. What about the gods? Said Elliot, his eyelids sagging. Ah, said Thanatos. Now that is personal. Zeus killed my father and locked me away for 2,000 years like a dirty little secret. I'm not proud to admit it. I want revenge. The oppressively warm air of the cave was making Elliot feel unbearably heavy. He stumbled forward as his body started to droop. Gracious, Elliot, you are weary, said Thanatos. Are you quite all right? What? Said Elliot. Yes, I'm fine, just a bit tired. Of course, said Thanatos. And look, here is a lovely warm bed. Wouldn't that be so comfortable? Elliot looked at the corner of the cave where Hypnos' opulent bed was calling him. Perhaps if he could just lay his head down for a moment. No, he had to leave. Let me go. Thanatos, said the demon of death. You seem to be struggling with your memory. Nothing wrong with my memory, said Elliot through half-closed eyes. Remind me of your name again? It's, of course, I know my... What did you say? Oh, silly me, gasped Thanatos, picking up the glass that Elliot had dropped on the floor. What a terrible host. It appears I've served you water from the river Leith outside. Like I said, it can't kill you. Packed with natural minerals, in fact. It just has one unfortunate side effect. You're going to forget everything. Everything you know, who you are. You'll even forget how to stay awake. In 1 hour, that water will be absorbed into your blood forever. You'll spend the rest of your life in unconscious oblivion. Don't be ridiculous, yawned Elliot. If I just have a quick nap, I'll be... What a marvellous idea, said Thanatos. Why don't you lie down and have a lovely sleep? And while you're lying there, sleeping until you die, I can take the Earthstone from you. Gods can't travel to the underworld. There's no one to rescue you. The Earthstone? Elliot knew that was really important. He just wasn't really entirely sure why. He stumbled over to the bed and lay down. That felt so good. Perhaps next time you'll think twice before presuming to negotiate with me, sniffed Thanatos from his throne. Except there won't be a next time. Good sleep. Sleep. Yes, that's what Elliot needed. A nice long sleep. As if I need a mortal child to find my Chaos Stone, scoffed Thanatos. They will be mine. I will have my revenge. And with you eternally asleep, I'm also free of my oath to your mother. Mother? The word pierced Elliot's last drop of consciousness like a spear. Mother, Elliot repeated. Shh, said Thanatos. Go to sleep, Elliot. Go to sleep. Forever. Mother. Mum. The words tumbled around Elliot's mind, fighting back the encroaching oblivion. Mum, he said more loudly, his mind searching for the answer to the question on his lips. He had a mum. His mum. He couldn't stay here. He needed to get back to her. He needed to get home. He tried to stand. No, 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 said Thanatos with a smirk. Don't fight it. Elliot raised his laden eyes over Thanatos' pale head to the field of stalactites that clung to the roof above him. Drop, he said in the quietest whisper, a faint image of Joshi's smile forcing its way into his mind. He looked at the ceiling, but the stalactites stayed firmly in place. Drop! Oh, do shut up, sighed Thanatos. Epic poems have ended faster. Drop, said Elliot more firmly, feeling the warmth of his mother's arms around him and her laughter singing in his ears. What's that? Said Thanatos, leaning from his throne. What are you doing? Elliot felt his love for his mum shoot up inside him like a volcanic lava. The sensation radiated from his heart in every corner of his body, giving him a surge of power for one last effort. I said, drop, he roared with every last bit of strength he had, holding up the earthstone. The light from the diamond exploded into the cave. What the? As Thanatos leapt up from his throne, an enormous stalactite came loose with a deafening crack and dropped to the floor, sinking deep into the ground directly in front of the deaf demon, barring his path. Too little too late, he snarled. You're still going to... Another massive rock cracked from the ceiling, holding Thanatos back once again. He moved to avoid a third falling one, but every way he turned, an enormous stalactite fell to block his way. This won't save you, he screamed at Elliot. You'll rot here anyway. But his curses were futile. The stalactites kept falling all around his throne, creating a solid stone circle around the livid demon, who raged at the mortal who had cheated him of his earthstone. This won't hold me, yelled Thanatos. I will find you. I will find the stones. You cannot defeat me. Oh, do shut up, murmured Elliot, holding the earthstone high above his head to send a final shower of stalactites down onto Thanatos, silencing the demon beneath the rockfall. Elliot flopped off the bed and dragged his heavy body across the floor to the cave, to where the poppies were wilting as Thanatos' spell weakened. He held one of Charon's cards between his fingers, desperate to summon the ferryman at the riverbank. He was nearly there, but he was just so tired. Elliot reached his trembling fingers towards the river and stretched his arms as far as he could, dropping the card with a whispered prayer. It landed on the blade of grass nearest to the water. He had missed. Elliot's head slumped to the ground. He could go no further. He failed. He'd failed the gods. He'd failed himself. He'd failed Mum. He let out an anguished sigh. So this was it. He took one last look at the lonely grave around him before closing his laden eyes for the final time. Okay, so that is chapter 26, and we'll go on to chapter 27 tomorrow.